What are the latest trends in cybersecurity, especially those that impact financial service institutions?
Well, what we're seeing is a huge increase in the number and frequency and actually the size of the attacks. This is easy to see in the United States recently, where we've had some weeks where up to 20 banks in a single week have been attacked and affected and taken offline. And I think what we're seeing with this is really, various groups that are responsible for some of these attacks. But generally, the types of groups that we have, first we have the hackers, those groups that are intent on taking down a website to disrupt business and make a political statement. And we also have organized crime, where they're actually trying to steal data or make fraudulent money movement during an attack. And then there's a group also that we could just consider to be the state-sponsored actors. So in Asia, I think the thing to learn is that although the attacks are largely not here as frequently as they are in the United States, it's a good chance for banks and financial companies in Asia to pay attention and learn from these attacks in the United States. What we can see is that in many cases, the solutions that banks have had in years past just aren't effective with the size and sophistication of these attacks now. So it's a good opportunity for banks and financial institutions to reassess their risk, look at the types of services that they have for protection, and to increase those defenses. The attackers have shown great experience in actually going after softer targets. We've seen situations where they'd be attacking one of our banking customers, and because our defenses are in place and we deflect that attack immediately, within 10 minutes they move the attack to another target. And over time, they're going to find softer and softer targets. We've seen some banks, in fact, that are not Akamai customers be attacked, and the attack becomes successful, and the attack continues for hours, keeping the bank offline for an entire day.
How are the financial service institutions attempting to address these cyber attacks?
Well, as I said, the first thing that they can do is reassess their security solutions and make sure that they're raising their defenses and adding layered security in the cloud. But overall, I think what we're seeing is some good advancement in the amount of information sharing that the banks are doing. So both through informal networks and through formal information sharing services within the industry. And the regulators in general can help encourage this information sharing and help provide guidance, because some of the smaller institutions that might not be, have that personal connection with some of the large firms need to benefit from this information sharing as well. I do hope that the regulators, of course, really encourage the innovation. The innovation is going to occur between companies like ourselves that invest a lot in security services and our security customers. In fact, we've just released Kona Site Defender 2.0 with some security features that have been done on a small scale with a couple of our financial customers. They were successful in those trials, and now we're bringing them to market. So the innovation is going to occur between the relationship between the security vendors and the banks and other companies that are under attack.
What are the latest innovations that are happening or that are being developed in terms of cybersecurity?
A couple new features that we have recently introduced and are proven to be popular with our customers. One is a feature that we call user validation. So not only can our Kona Site Defender intercept and inspect each request coming in from a user, we can now also reply back to that browser and make sure this whole question of whether it is a bot or not, we can actually establish that. Many of the attack servers, of course, are using automated systems, and we can detect that through user validation to make sure that it is a true, valid browser from an end user before we pass a request on to the data center. Another innovation that we are announcing with Kona Site Defender 2.0 is our HTTP slow post rule. Now, with a web page, it's very much when you have a form, for instance, and you're filling it out with different fields such as username, your first name, your last name, your home address. Some of the attacks actually play games with this and actually trickle in the answers very, very slowly. An analogy could be that if you have a call center and your operators on the call center are expected to handle one call every minute or two by taking information from a customer. But if a customer calls and they're speaking very, very slowly or confused, and there's a lot of give and take, and maybe they need 5 or 10 minutes of that call center operator's time to actually get that information through, that call center operator, of course, is consumed and they can't do their processing as fast. So what we're able to do with the Akamai Edge server is actually listen for all the pieces of the request coming in from the user before we pass it on to the data center. So that's one of the analogies with our HTTP slow post rule.
Going forward for the rest of 2013, what trends do you expect to see in the field of cybersecurity?
Well, certainly we fully expect to see the attacks continue in size and in frequency. We're already seeing in 2013 the attacks get much more severe between the size of the attacks and the sophistication of what they're doing. So the attacks are going to continue. The other thing that we're starting to see as a trend, the attackers are looking for new, softer targets. Many of the banks have raised their defenses and are now successfully blocking some of these attacks. And we've seen in some cases in the United States, the attackers going down all the way into some of the credit unions and very small financial services firms that would not have considered themselves a threat to these attacks. So globally, I think the banks and financial services firms around the world should pay attention here, and to make sure that they raise their defenses, because I've had a number of banks and firms admit to me that they have no denial service protection because they did not consider themselves a target in the past, and that is certainly a change that really they should all now consider themselves a target.